Our guest today is the president and CEO of the Chicago Architecture Foundation. She has served in this position for 18 years. Our guest today is responsible for overseeing the foundation's comprehensive program of architecture tours, exhibitions, public programs, lectures, special events, and youth and adult education programs. She earned her Bachelor of Music degree from Queen's University in Ontario, Canada. Our guest today is a certified association executive and a graduate of the Advanced Executive Program at the Kellogg School at Northwestern. Ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Osmond. Lynn.
Well, thank you very much for coming out. It's great to see a room full of architectural buffs just like us, and I want to recognize we've got some docents here and the people from Chicago's First Lady Cruises, the wonderful staff, and board members of CAF. So thank you very much for coming out and supporting us. I want to start out by talking about Open House Chicago today. And Chicago's a city of neighborhoods, and 200 neighborhoods and 77 official community areas. Many of these neighborhoods have either been forgotten or in conversation because of the news stories they create. When watching the morning or evening news, many of us see these headlines for Pilsen, Rogers Park, Back of the Yards, South Shore, Garfield Park, Pullman. The headlines focus on crime, violence, poverty, and decline. But there are other stories to be told. Historic stories, adaptive reuse stories, stories of power, stories of innovation, artistic stories, stories hidden in plain sight, industrial stories, stories of opulence, stories of preservation, stories of urban renewal, stories of new opportunities, stories of new beginnings, and stories of hope. The Chicago Architecture Foundation is proud to bring all these stories to life in a citywide festival last year that drew 55,000 people to celebrate Chicago. Its buildings, its history, its traditions, its people, and its neighborhoods. In 2011, we launched the first Open House Chicago Festival, working with community partners in more than 8 neighborhoods, from Rogers Park to Garfield Park to South Shore, and many neighborhoods in between, including the Loop. CF opened 130 buildings for public access for free for 2 days. A free festival that celebrates Chicago buildings and neighborhoods. Would anyone be interested? Would anyone show up? Well, on October 15th and 16th, 2011, more than 23,000 people explored the city through the first Open House Chicago. Their journey might have begun in Garfield Park. This West Side neighborhood was a bustling Irish enclave in 1919. The shopping district along Madison Avenue rivaled the Loop, and the 4,000-seat Marlboro Theater was one of the city's largest. Deeply impacted by the construction of the Eisenhower Expressway and the 1965 riots, the neighborhood fell on hard times. But only 5 miles from the Loop, this neighborhood is a treasure trove of historic and contemporary architecture. When people think of the Sears Tower, rarely does this 14-story structure in North Lawndale come to mind. This 1906 structure was the centerpiece of the world's largest commercial building, a fitting home for what would later become the world's largest store. This brick tower, designed by Niemans and Fellows in the neoclassical style, was once famous for broadcasting WLS-AM, world's largest store radio, from its 11th floor. The Foundation for Holman Square is renovating the tower and the surrounding land into a center for urban agriculture, job creation, and the arts. The next stop on the journey is located directly across the street from the Sears Tower, the original power plant to provide electricity and heat for the massive Sears, Roebuck and Company headquarters. Originally built in 1905, designed by Niemans and Fellow also, this structure received a $45 million restoration in 2009. The foundation for Homan Square had the vision to transform the building into 2 charter high schools, the Henry Ford Academy, Powerhouse High, and Noble's DRW College Prep. The renovation blended historic preservation with cutting-edge sustainable technologies. The next stop on Open House is down the street and a few blocks from Garfield Park Conservatory. It's a hidden gem designed by award-winning architects Wheeler Kearns, and it's a wonderful restaurant space called Inspiration Kitchens. This working restaurant is a nonprofit social enterprise that has helped hundreds of individuals gain skills to find employment and exit homelessness and poverty. Being part of Open House allowed this restaurant to show off and to actually host Open House patrons for that long-awaited lunch at the end of the day. Rogers Park, after lunch you might venture over there. This neighborhood once was a gathering place for Native Americans, regional tribes, and was annexed by the city in 1893. The Jesuits arrived in 1909 and opened up Loyola University. The middle class began settling in this bustling area of Chicago. But in the 1940s, the upwardly mobile residents of Rogers Park were drawn to pristine grounds of new urban communities in the north. This made room for post-World War II immigrants from Ireland, from Scotland, from England to establish this community. Today, this beachfront community is by some measures Chicago's most economically and ethnically diverse community. The first stop in Rogers Park for any open house patron has got to be the 1915 Prairie-style home designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. The home was commissioned by Emil Bach, co-owner of the Bach Brickworks, and was originally designed as a country house with views of the lake and a spacious yard. The home was a recipient of recent renovation by Duarte Enterprises, and it was restored to the legendary architect standards. Next up is an apartment building designed by architects Jens J. Jensen, not landscape architect Jens Jensen. And the crenellated structure looks more like a castle than an apartment building. Opened in 1925, this sprawling brick building featured multiple towers and impressively kept grounds. Originally, the complex even included a pond and had several swans there. Still remaining today is a charming European-style indoor pool, one of Chicago's best-kept secrets, and it's only open to the public during Open House. So after a good night's rest, because we've already seen a lot of buildings, you get ready to start Sunday morning at 9 o'clock and check out another neighborhood. So this time we're going to go to Pilsen in the southern neighborhood of Chicago. You might not know that Pilsen was named after Czech city of the Republic, and it was established in the 1840s as one of Chicago's earliest working-class immigrant communities. Pilsen was home to both wealthy professionals and the working class of Slavic descent, who were not readily welcome in any other part of the city. In the past 6 decades, the community has become increasingly diverse, and it's largely designed by Mexican residents. And it includes public art, social justice activism, and comprehensive community development, all for our Mexican population. The long history of the community has resulted in a legacy of terrific buildings, including churches, theaters, commercial sites, galleries, and a unique, very unique housing stock. To explore the Polish origins of Pilsen, however, you need to go to St. Adalbert Church. It's a must-see. This historic church, modeled after St. Paul's Basilica in Rome, was designed by Henry Schlocks and was completed in 1914. With its opulence and grand scale, is a prime example of the Renaissance revival style. The parish was founded in 1874 to serve Chicago's Polish immigrants, which is reflected in the stained glass windows depicting Polish saints Casimir and Stanislaus Kostka. Today, St. Adalbert's Church is Pilsen's Mexican community shrine, with Our Lady of Guadalupe services are offered in both Polish and in Spanish. To step inside Mexican culture, you have to visit Hector Duarte's studios. Hector was born in Mexico, where he studied mural painting at the workshop of David Segueras, a co-founder of Mexican muralism with Diego Riveras. Since moving to Chicago in 1985, Hector has participated in creation of over 50 murals. His paintings and prints have been showcased at museums all over Mexico and the United States. The Gulliver in Wonderland mural covers the wall of Hector Duarte's home and studio and is over 3,500 square feet. The mural represents a struggling Mexican immigrant as Gulliver, held down by barbed wire. And just south of Pilsen is Bridgeport in back of the yards, whose deep industrial roots were instrumental in the growth of Chicago. Formerly known as Hardscrabble, Bridgeport housed workers that constructed the Illinois and Michigan Canal in 1848. As the Union stockyards grew into the largest livestock processing facility in the world, back of the yards housed many of the Irish and German immigrants who worked in the nearby slaughterhouses, furnaces, and factories. Today, Bridgeport boasts artist galleries, thriving new coffee shops, while back of the yards is home to some of the most cutting-edge green technology and sustainable industries in the city. Decorators Supply Corporation traces back to 1883, where its original founders, Strawn and Foster, established a partnership to manufacture artistic decorative accessories. 10 years later, Decorators Supply was an ornamental plaster that helped to create the moldings that were used in all the buildings for the 1893 Columbian World's Fair. Today, it still operates as a family-owned business and maintains a large repository of molds and plaster casts that are white from 1893. We had a recent tour with our board members there. It was so exciting to see these original plaster casts from that fair. And so you can go, if you have an historic home, they've still got the moldings right there, so it's a great place to go to. Next up is the plant. Originally a 93,500 square foot meatpacking facility, the plant is steadily developing into Chicago's premier urban farm. The net zero energy vertical farm and food business operation combines nonprofit and for-profit models to foster sustainable agriculture and has created over 125 jobs. The plant features sophisticated growing systems, including, get this, tilapia-fooled aquaponics, pink mushrooms, and craft beer brewery. If you want to go see that. So moving south, a visitor will find Bronzeville, also known as the Black Metropolis. During the peak of the Great Migration in the 1910s and 1920s, thousands of African Americans left the South and immigrated to Chicago in search of work. They created Bronzeville, one of the nation's most significant African American communities. Bronzeville became home to many famous figures, such as boxers Joe Louis and Jack Johnson, literary greats Richard Wright, Gwendolyn Brooks, and immortal jazzman Louis Armstrong. The area has become a hot spot for jazz music and was influential in the creation of the civil rights and also the Negro League baseball. Due to its affluent past, when the neighborhood was inhabited in the late 1800s by prominent Chicagoans, Bronzeville contains one of the largest concentrations of historic mansions. There are many wonderful sites to visit in Bronzeville, but a great one for photos is the Corpus Christi Church, which was built for a large Irish American community in 1914. This Renaissance revival building by Joseph McCarthy boasts twin spires and a deeply coffered ceiling. The interior contains brightly colored stained glass windows, and an altar that is a mosaic replica of Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. An adjacent cloister forms a wonderful park for parishioners. So looking at this picture, you're wondering, why is a hardware store, Ace Hardware Store, on an architectural tour? Well, in 1921, this modest building was a legendary Sunset Cafe Jazz Club and was owned by Louis Armstrong. Jazz greats like Earl Hines, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Cab Calloway, Benny Goodman played at the Sunset, and it was later renamed the Grand Terrace Cafe. The modest building has a political office, was a political office, an auto garage, and is now Aces Hardware. But if you step inside, you'll be joining thousands of others, jazz lovers, who make a pilgrimage to the store to see the wonderful old stage that Louis Armstrong and Benny Goodman once played on. Again, only open during open house. You know, we received this fabulous note from one of our site hosts, Maurice Perkins, who is a building manager for a transitional residential youth program housed in the Swift Mansion. Originally built in 1892 as a wedding gift by meatpacking magnate Gustavus Swift, the marble-clad home stood in the shadows of the world's Columbian Exposition and at the center of Chicago's wealthiest community. After hosting 1,000 people and entertaining them with performances, Mr. Perkins wrote us the next day, "I want to say thank you for producing the greatest event ever held at the Swift Mansion in the 15 years I've been caretaker. Many of our guests were members of the Jewish community who wanted to revisit the early roots of their ancestors, who originally built Bronzeville in the 1800s. It was just a wonderful letter to receive, and I can't tell you how many exclamation marks there were." Pardon?
What's the address of Swift?
The address of the Swift? I can't tell. Garrett? I'll tell you later. I'll get it to you.
4500 South Michigan.
What is it?
It's around 4500 South.
4500 South Mission. Thanks for interrupting my speech, Paul. Anybody else, feel free to do it, okay? We're in a roll here.
To the City Club.
But that was a great transition, okay? So the inaugural year of open house turned out to be a wild ride. After 2 exciting days, we were surprised to see what we saw. Locals and tourists ventured all over the city into neighborhoods they'd never visited. Chicagoans visited churches and schools that their grandparents had gone to. Guests appreciated in person the vibrant murals that they'd only seen in pictures and magazines. And attendees went to neighborhoods they'd never been to and enjoyed micro-local restaurants, all part of the open house experience. The open house event has grown over the past 3 years. And in 2013, we had included 150 buildings in 13 neighborhoods. We were staffed by 1,300 volunteers, that's a recruitment effort, that donated 8,000 hours. We generated more than 70,000 rides on the CTA, and 1,500 brave souls rode Diffie bikes all around the city. 55,000 people made 194,000 site visits. This event, needless to say, is no small undertaking, and we spend countless hours planning it. We continue to invest in this free opportunity for the citizens of the city of Chicago because we want to deliver on our mission, which is to inspire people to discover why design matters. CAF was started in 1966 by a group of volunteers dedicated to educating the public about Chicago's historic legacy. You know us for our tours, such as the Chicago Architecture Foundation River Cruise on Chicago's First Lady Cruises. We've been partners for over 20 years, and it's now ranked the #1 thing to do in the city of Chicago. Our highly trained volunteers lead 85 different tours that depart 6,000 times per year. We also host weekly programs for children and teens, and then we also hold lectures, special programs, and classes for adults. The Chicago Model and other exhibitions in our facility is a wonderful must-start place for many people to begin their tour of Chicago. And if you've not seen it, please join us for the City of Big Data exhibit right now, which tells you all the ways that data in the city of Chicago is being collected and how it's making us a smarter city. Today, CAF is one of the top 10 cultural institutions in the city with an audience of over 500,000. We have 10,000 members, 450 volunteer docents, 65 staff, 150,000 social media followers, and operate on a $17 million budget. And we're a very growing and vibrant cultural institution. Each year we engage thousands of students in our educational programs that we really teach STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. We have a nationally distributed architecture curriculum that's the first of its kind in the country. We work with teens through hands-on experience and through placemaking in the communities, such as through Open House. We empower youth to apply design thinking, teaching them critical thinking skills on real-world problems in their neighborhoods, allowing them to really impact what's happening in their communities. So open house. It's a concept that started 20 years ago in London by a group of citizens who really wanted to engage the public in architectural discourse. There are now 25 cities across the world that are part of Open House, and I'm proud to say that Chicago now is only in our 4th year, but we're the 3rd largest in the world with our Open House program. So last year, every zip code in Chicago is represented during the festival. West Siders visited the North Side, South Siders came downtown. Thousands of suburbanites came to discover why this is the city of neighborhoods. Open House brings thousands of people from all across the country to see Chicago's unmatched architecture. And as we partner with Choose Chicago, we are proud to say that we had people from 70 states and 71 different countries that came in to participate. Through extensive survey and data collection, we found that Open House is having a greater impact on the city than we could have ever thought. Last year, 27,000 people explored a new neighborhood during the festival. Nearly 43,000 people now have improved opinions about Chicago, getting beyond those headlines, and our neighborhoods. More than 48,000 planning return visits to the neighborhoods they went to shop or to participate in a restaurant. 92,000 locals said Open House made them proud to be a Chicagoan. Through all this downtown activity in Chicago's neighborhoods, the festival generated $5.1 million in economic impact. And that's not just travel to and from the city, and it's not including tickets because, of course, it's free. But that's $5.1 million in direct spending at restaurants, hotels, transportation, and shopping. After 3 years, more than 118,000 people have participated in Open House, and the festival has generated more than $11 million for the city of Chicago. You know, perhaps our community partner from Uptown said it best. Open House helped me show off Uptown's treasures to visitors that we could never have done on our own. It helped people see beyond the headlines, to experience our community and meet some of the folks that love it and make it great. Or maybe it's the thousands of comments that we receive every year. People thanking us for showing them part of the city they didn't know existed. People telling us they're planning to move to Chicago after seeing this beautiful city. People, they weren't here in the winter, by the way. People telling us that they flew in from Australia, from England, to participate in this festival because they wanted to see Chicago, the quintessential city of American architecture. But none of this would be possible because, remember, it's a free festival. It weren't for our wonderful partners. And to start it, the first year, 4 years ago, we had sponsors with the National Endowment for the Arts, Chicago Community Trust, and Allstate Foundation. Today, we received major sponsorship report from the Kemper Foundation, or the Kemper Bill Insurance, and they're a presenting sponsor. Their building was the #1 site for the past 2 years, and it's because you can get up to the top deck observatory, which is only open during Open House. And they made a special tribute to us last year on their building. So look on Open House weekend and you'll see them. Thanks for making it possible, Kemper. So this year, save the date. It's only a couple weeks away, October 18 and 19, and we're expecting at least 60,000 people to come. And so I'm going to give you a few highlights of what you can expect to see this year. Union Station Women's Lounge. Yes, you can go into it. It's normally closed, but you probably walk by it if you commute to Union Station and didn't know it was there. Saints V and O Ukrainian Church in Ukrainian Village. The reconstructed English pub in the Skyline Club's hidden Michigan Avenue location. How many people knew this existed? A few. Edgewater Beach Apartments, historic pool and indoor terrace. 190 South LaSalle's 40th floor law library with floor-to-ceiling vistas of the Loop. This is one of my personal favorites that I can't wait to see. You can climb up to the top of an office building in Ravenswood to see the Airstream Conference Center. And you can also enjoy a musical performance. Or you can visit the stunning new Regal Theater in South Shore that's open for the first time in 10 years. And of course, there's over 15 architectural offices that you can go to and see the work that our architects are doing throughout Chicago, the Midwest, and throughout the world. So Open House Chicago is now one of the largest architectural events in the world, and next year we're proud to be a centerpiece of the mayor's recently announced 2015 Architecture Biennial. We give thousands of people unprecedented access to buildings they wouldn't have seen and to communities they wouldn't have explored. Through Open House, we're showcasing Chicago's wonderful neighborhoods, and we're encouraging safer communities. We're telling locals and visitors to look beyond the headlines and into the real heart of Chicago. It's 200 culturally diverse neighborhoods. So in 2 weeks, we hope you'll gather your friends and family to join us. A printed guide will be wrapped around the outside of your Chicago Tribune on Thursday, October 16th, and it'll tell you all the places where you can go, or you can go on openhousechicago.org. Members receive priority access, so there's membership information on your desk, so if you want to join and become a member, you get into those lines first. And maybe you can even try to beat the record set by our chairman from Allstate, which is 40 buildings in 2 days. So perhaps our tagline for Open House says it best: 150 cool places, 48 hours, go. Thank you.
Very good, Lynn. Very good. Sorry for interruption. If you have any questions, we have, raise your hand, Jack, raise your hand, hand them to the people.
Oh, wait a second, I'm not taking one from Jeffrey Bear.
Jeffrey. Whoa.
I want you to tell, though, Jeffrey got his start as a CAF docent, was discovered giving a river cruise, right, Jeffrey? So we can take all the credit, it's not TTW.
Well, here,
Okay.
you could, well, I'll save that one. Read that one. Go ahead.
Okay, can you break,
Got to use darker pencil.
okay, can you ask to broaden the importance of design?
Can you read it?
Oh, yeah, so then we have Daniel from the National Public Housing Museum to ask me to broaden on the importance of design to neighborhoods. And I think one of the things that we do with the Chicago Architecture Foundation, we work with a lot of communities on asset mapping. And one of the things we did with South Shore with our neighborhood docent program there is the South Shore Chamber of Commerce worked with us, and they said, oh, we just have bungalows in our neighborhood. And we said, you have Chicago historic bungalows. And we helped work with them on crafting the story of their neighborhood so that they could begin to talk about it with pride of the architectural legacy and the future of what design could do for their community. So it's been a really exciting program. And I think through through neighborhoods learning about the assets in their community and the design of their community, they really can create and narrate a different story for their future.
Okay. Jill Britton, where are you, Jill? Raise your hand. Right there, right in front, right in front. How did you track the data of economic impact of Open House?
Oh, well, it's been interesting. First of all, we have somebody who's not with us here tonight who is our data nerd, Patrick Miner. He's wonderful. And so all those wonderful maps, he tracked and put every single little dot on. We ask everybody who comes to Open House to actually sign in with their zip code. And so with you come in, and people are trained. By their fifth site, they just come and go 60607. They just, they're trained to do that. Then we also have clickers, and then we also do a lot of data analysis through the click-throughs on our website. So it's really, but it's zip code analysis that is the most important to us, and that allows us to tell where our visitors are from. And you want to do that back home, right? At TGW. Thanks.
Any more questions? Just yell them out. Way in the back. Get up and scream it. No question? Huh.
Yep, there's one over here.
Okay. Stand up and scream it.
What are the criteria you use to select the open house?
A number of different things. So it can be what are the criteria for selecting sites for open house? So first of all, it's is it a architecturally interesting building, or does it tell a significant story about that community? And so there's some buildings that you'd look at them and say, well, why is this on? But it's really a historically significant part of the community. And then also we look at doing neighborhoods that, and we try to cluster sites because we know that we have more success if there's about 5 sites in a neighborhood so that people can have one transportation and then explore the neighborhood. So those are some of the criteria. But if you have a building that you want to get on, please email or talk to any of our staff here.
Okay. Yes, stand up and scream.
She up to Cranes, how are you?
Yes.
Did George Lucas approach you or the foundation to talk about that project?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, has George Lucas has approached us about talking about that project? He hasn't yet, but we're approaching him. We really want to get... But we're really excited about Ma Architects. I mean, I think it's a really interesting combination. Ma Architects have not done any buildings here in the States, but they've done some really significant buildings and cultural institutions in both China and the Marilyn Monroe Towers in Toronto. They're going to be working locally with VOA, so it's a win-win. We get a great local firm as well as a great international friend. And we like to say that Chicago is, the city's our museum, and so we're always excited when the architectural collection is expanded with our architects from just not locally, but from around the world.
Just to make our speaker feel really at home, that was a pretty good talk, eh? My brother lives in Toronto.